We are so excited to have you here for the February Women with Vision Division Mastermind. If you were here for last month's call, you already know we were asking you who wants to step up, who wants to be part of this year's initiative and board of directors. And man, did you guys respond in such a wonderful way. And so for everybody on this call right now, we applaud the women that we're about to introduce to you, many of whom you know as the women that are volunteering for Women with Vision Division of the 2020 Vision Company, which is our women's business school and division. And they will be doing a ton of incredible work this year. You know, just keeping the mission at our forefront. We want to remind everybody, especially if this is your first call, and welcome if it is, and thanks for joining us if it is your first call. Our mission here is to strengthen women's businesses so that we can get you those promotions, higher pay, and more equality through the results we get in your business. So that is truly what sets us apart. So here's the image, so cute, unveiling of our board of directors that you'll be seeing soon. Our marketing department, under the direction of Candy Zolkowski, who is on this call and is never on our calls to take applause. I think everybody can say what an unbelievable job she does with our marketing, and she just makes us all look incredible. So I'm going to stop share there, and I'm going to share something else. So, and I'm going to hand it over to now, as you know, our chairman of the board, Laura Brandeo.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. And I want to tell you first and foremost, I am truly honored to be here. And as Christine said, over the last couple of weeks, I have had the privilege and honor of speaking with each of these board of directors to hear their journeys through the mortgage industry, to learn about them, not just professionally, but personally, because I believe as women especially, we are more than a title. We are more than the companies that we represent. We are women, and we all have a different definition of success, a different definition of what we want to get out of being a woman with vision. So I met with each person, and I asked them a few questions, and then I just listened. And then I decided to break them up into where I feel they could contribute their expertise and their passion with the entire group. And at this moment, I would like to obviously go through the list, but also give a little bit more of detail as to what they will be doing with the group. Okay. So we'll start, I'm actually going to start at the bottom and go up. So Anna Maria, we know that she is definitely a marketing guru and a branding specialist. Well, what she's going to be doing with us, of course, working with Candy and the 2020 Vision Your Success team, but what we're also going to do is we need to be so powerful on social media, and we want to help the team. We collectively are going to come up with proper schedules and content to be able to make sure we are providing expertise all across the board. So Anna Maria will be putting together a schedule and a branding strategy, working with Christine and the rest of us to be able to make sure we're all aligned. So that will be her role. Then Leora. Well, Leora has done such a phenomenal job already in the time of working with Women with Vision in showing networking and building relationships and how to not only start them, but maintain them and grow them. So she will be specializing in that area. Now, in terms of career pathing and recruitment, Renata is going to be teaching us how to hire the right team members, how to develop them, and how our own success. Think about this. We know, we've heard the statistics a million times, that if you look at a job description for a posting, a man will look at the criteria, and if he meets 40, 50% of the options on there, he will apply for that job and say, I got it. A woman will look at the same posting and say, oh, I need all of these except this one. I'm not qualified. Well, we're going to change that, because not only are we going to show you how to go after the job you want, we're going to show you how to create opportunities that you never even existed before. So we're going to handle recruitment. We're going to handle you going for those positions. And if you do have your own company, how to hire the right people and build your own team. So handling it on both sides. Now, Madison is taking us into a whole new area. Madison is actually going to put Women with Vision on Clubhouse. And she's going to come up with the strategy and creating rooms based on different topics. And all of us on the board of directors will be joining her in those rooms and discussions to continue to grow our brand, educate, and inform all the women out there about Women with Vision. So that will be Madison's role. Elizabeth, well, she's going to be handling the business side. She is going to be teaching us about how to run our businesses, what we need to pay attention to, what needs to be measured, and making those smart decisions for our long-term strategies from a business perspective. So very important. Stacy is jumping into mentorship. Now, we all know how important it is to have a mentor, but do we really know how to be a mentor? And what about being a mentee? Because honestly, we should be learning as much as we are giving back. So we're going to be approaching mentorship and menteeship and how to be able to pair the two together. So that will be her role. Jenna, pretty obvious choice from Culture Matters. We are certainly putting her in charge of culture. So once we figured out how to hire those great team members, well, now we need to know how to keep them and how to make sure that our culture within our companies, our teams, and even ourselves of what we're looking for if we were going somewhere, right? We're going to learn all about culture. Carrie Fitzpatrick is going to tackle leadership. She is going to get us into a leadership mindset, even if it's just our own, being a leader of ourselves. She's going to teach us from an education standpoint and how to support ourselves and our teams. Suha, obvious choice again. She's going to help us on the technology side. She's going to teach us about the latest and greatest technologies. She's going to make it so we're not, guys, listen, we're going to have a powerhouse of women that we will never be afraid of feeling uncomfortable about any section of the business or our own professional development. And I actually want to share a story. Right now, I want to share a story. Last year, I don't remember what month it was, but last year, the MBA reached out to me and asked me to be a panelist on a discussion. First time in my entire career. That topic that they came to me for was not something I had ever spoken about or even had any knowledge of. I was completely out of my expertise. And you want to know what I did? I called Christine. And I said, Christine, now I'm thinking if the MBA is knocking on my door, I don't close it. I don't say no. Was I scared? Was I nervous? Christine said, Laura, we got this. Get an idea of the topic. And I'm going to get us an expert. And then we're going to practice and we're going to come up with how to do this. Not only did I do the panel discussion, they actually wrote an article in one of our mortgage industry magazines about how well I did on the discussion. And I had never spoken about that topic in my life. The reason why I'm telling you that story, you guys will never be afraid of any of these topics because we're going to be that powerhouse behind you so that you will never have that concern and you will have that confidence in every area. All right, the welcome wagon to Shara. Well, what she's going to do is every new Women with Vision member, she's going to do very similar to what I did with the board of directors. She's going to meet with them. She's going to provide a little interview video so we can do a little welcome to the entire group. She's going to get some quotes that these people say so we can start posting them on social media and we can bring them to the front. And she's also going to give us a write-up so we understand what help they need and what guidance and how we can support them. So she will handle the welcome wagon. And then Kim Clancy. When Kim and I met that day, she spoke about how much inner work she has been doing, especially over this last year. Well, that inner work, she's now going to share it. And we all know how important having the right mindset is for us to be able to grow personally and professionally. So Kim is going to share that expertise with us. And Heidi is going to be helping us on the event side. Virtual, in person, she will be supporting us. I know we're going to be having a meeting, I think, is that tomorrow or I think tomorrow, right? To speak about virtual events. She's going to be supporting us and helping us. And again, we want everyone to be comfortable in that realm because we live in the world virtual and in person. Very important. And then Kerry is going to be helping us, supporting. She comes from a background of origination. And she also understands the wholesale side now. So she's got both sides. So she is going to be bringing that expertise to all of us, whether you're originating or whether you're supporting originators, she will be bringing that expertise to us. And then Melissa. Melissa and I, again, had a wonderful conversation, and we spoke a lot about all of these different topics. And we all know, again, as I started, we are not our titles or our companies or that piece of it. We are well-rounded women, and that includes our relationships outside of our professional lives. Elizabeth and I we spoke a lot about this on Friday because Valentine's Day was coming shortly after. And we spoke about we have to find time for our relationships because otherwise we constantly have this feeling of guilt that, oh my God, I'm doing great here, but man, I've got other people angry at me because of this. Well, we know we can't have balance, but we can have harmony. And Melissa is going to help us with that. So Powerhouse Group, ladies, very excited about this. And of course, I'm very thankful for all of you for taking the time and connecting so that we can put you in these positions.
My God, you can see in 2 weeks, thank you so much, Board of Directors. Let's give them a nice, everybody and ourselves, a warm round. We know the work that's going to be put into this is going to be foundational for all the women that are coaching with us, as well as all the women in our masterminds and our events and the things that we're going to be holding. We are so excited. And we know with Laura leading this charge, I can't even tell you the weight I feel that has been lifted for me by this volunteer group just becoming part of my organization. And it's my dream come true. I mean, watching, a division that I've created, and I spent 2 years behind the scenes writing curriculum for this business division. And so we're going to give you a little taste of that curriculum today. And so I want to move on to that part of this. And I want to let you know that at every single mastermind, we will be doing many different things. It will not get boring. I promise you, it will not be a boring meeting. So I want to tell you right out of the gates, what's going to be different about us is that every time we meet in a mastermind, we will give you something of value in terms of education. We may be talking off something that's in our curriculum dashboards. We may be talking with a guest that we have coming in, an expert in an area that we think would be really cool. We might just fangirl some celebrity guests. In fact, I think we're going to drop a little nugget, aren't we, right now, Laura? Who do we have coming very shortly to one of our upcoming meetings?
Yes. So very excited about this one. So last month, I spoke at an online conference, and one of the panelists that was on my panel was an award-winning daytime Emmy winner from All My Children from back in the 1980s. So any of you ladies that are around Christine and I's age, you may remember this young lady. And what happened after she left all my children is she became a voiceover woman. And she is very famous. I mean, if you look her up, you will see she's the voice of Poison Ivy on cartoons, and she's the voice of a bunch of Star Wars clones on the games. And I mean, it's a whole repertoire of different things that she's the voiceover of. Well, she has now gone into coaching people on giving great voice, all about how to properly communicate and how to effectively use your voice to have other people feel your passion, connect with you, and want to do business with you. So after I heard her speak, I reached out to her and said, hey, I need to learn more about what you're doing. And I said to Christine, I think on Friday or Thursday, I said to Christine, listen, I'm meeting with this woman. I have zero idea what I'm asking her or what I'm doing. I said, but how about if we have her come on and actually speak to the ladies? And she's like, hey, Laura, go with it. See what you've got, right? Well, my goodness, I had the best conversation with her on Monday, and she has agreed to come on in May, and she's going to speak to everyone about the power of our voice. And so we're very, very excited that her name is Tasia Valenza, and she was Dottie on All My Children in the mid-1980s. For any of you that watched back then, she married Tad. I don't know if you remember this, but she is a wonderful, wonderful lady that lives in Beverly Hills with her husband that's a real estate attorney, and it is going to be awesome.
Yay for connections, right? I mean, that's really big. So that's just an example, guys, of who we're bringing in and our own lessons that are going to be here. One of the things that I want to tell you is that right now, the women on the board of directors are coming together, and they're going to be hosting virtual events this year, virtual classes on many topics. That's how the directors will end up getting their expertise out to you. So it will expand from this mastermind to other opportunities that you have to join Zoom calls with expertise and incredible people to meet. At the end of today, we're going to show you a little glimpse, or talk about a little glimpse into the Women with Vision ceremony that's happening on the eve of the Vision Summit, which is really going to be a remarkable evening. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about what that looks like. Now, I do want to point out two people that weren't listed on the board's descriptions are because they are really backing up behind the scenes the entire organization, and they wear 5,000 hats, by the way, for 2020 Vision, and that is Cher, Christine Aramita, and Candy Zelkowski. So I just want to make sure that you recognize they're really the power behind the engine of everything we're doing. And they are serving on this board this year in their roles that they have under their current job descriptions with 2020. So we're just really lucky. And of course, watching the reaction to the announcement last week of Laura's, designation was really something to behold, because the reaction has been incredible. You will see the women doing a social media campaign right now, promoting themselves, which isn't always easy to do, by the way, but something that we ask them to do. And it is part of becoming an expert and sharing your expertise. So they're branching out. I know a few of them were really a little uncomfortable about how to go about it. So I'm going to do a reading to start off our lesson today from my chapter in Win or Learn. I expect Win or Learn to be a big basis of conversation for us this year in our masterminds, because quite frankly, if I today wrote an email to the top women in the industry for the last 20 or 30 years, and I said, tell me your best lesson that you had working in the industry, it would be the combination of this book here that you see that is now a bestseller, and incredibly so, with men buying the book. In fact, why wouldn't they want to know what our best stories are? I am going to share my reading. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't know what to expect when I read this, because I want to tell you, I cried writing it. I cried putting it together. It was probably the first time in my life that I had actually sat down to talk about my career in this facet. I'm a little under the weather today. Oddly, it happened when I woke up this morning, but nonetheless, I know better when I'm feeling a little ill to talk about emotional things because I'm already such an emotional character, but I love you girls. And you know, I always put my heart first. And so I'm going to share not the whole chapter, but a nice chunk so you can hear the story. Now, I want to tell you, we want to teach you real business lessons this year, things that you're going to apply to your business. Today's lesson and the slides that are going to follow this reading are really an advocacy message. And that is a big part of what's in our curriculum. And the reason that we're going to talk about this, even though we came out and said, look, we aren't an advocacy company, we're a business school, is because it's in these peripheral topics that we know you're not getting this education out there. You aren't finding places that are addressing the real obstacles that you face every day. You may or may not face some of these things. You may not have faced them yet in your career, depending on where you are. I bet there's a lot of people when I do this reading and we do this lesson that goes, oh my God, thank you. What an amazing thing that I'm sitting on a Zoom and we're actually talking about this out loud in a safe environment in 2021, which would have never happened 10 years ago, even maybe 5 years ago. So the title of my chapter is Call Me Crazy. So I'm going to just read and I'll stop at some point. I hope you enjoy the reading. I'm not sure where I was when I first contemplated whether I had lost my mind or not. It became a reoccurring thought over 3 decades. It would come without warning, a ghost of a feeling lingering in a space not visible or clear. A certainty something had just happened. It felt horrible, and yet I was left with no proof of wrongdoing, no proof of deliberate slight, simply a surety of wrongness. I have come to know this to be a common sentiment and feeling, an experience described by many people when dealing with someone who is subtly manipulating one's environment, perhaps even initiating difficult to pin down passive aggressive behavior. Recognizing you are a target for this action, sorting out the reasons why, determining if it is real or if you're imagining it can be the most difficult part. Truly, I think it takes time, keen insight, and a certain amount of intuitiveness to see the pattern without becoming paranoid. I have helped hundreds of people sort through experiences like this, and I have become a sharp protector in my own life when I recognize it's happening. One of my clearest memories of this happened in a boardroom populated by myself and about 12 men. I had a suggestion, which was literally dismissed and met with silence from the entire room, only to hear 10 minutes later the same suggestion made by someone else. As the entire table erupted in loud agreement, I was wondering to myself, am I invisible right now? I have heard comedians call this mansplaining. It's not funny. I mean, it's comic. We identify with it, and because laughter is medicine, we laugh about discrimination, which has plagued us our whole career. Still, it is not funny. I have seen this practice used many times against others. I remember being part of a pool of 6 people with 1 female leader. I estimate there was about 10% approval of this leader, the senior female leader's ideas. I personally thought she was brilliant. I could also see she was strong. And herein lies the issue. To acknowledge a strong woman is emasculating to narcissists. I have watched it my entire career. They will not admit a woman is on the right track if in the process it means they feel less. This thinking is a deeply embedded form of discrimination. What is our defense against such commentary by discriminators? Are our ideas, visions, and plans, projects being rejected for legitimate reasons, sweeping the discrimination under the proverbial carpet? Where does this leave us when our voice is silenced, when we are ignored, and when our ideas are squashed? What if the leader over us is blatantly discriminating against us? Another time I experienced pay inequality when a manager offered a salary plan I knew paid me less for more work. When I balked, he told me to track it for 6 months, and if I was paid less, to come back and make a good argument. I want to let that sink in for a moment. Take less money for more work for a period of 6 months, and then argue for your return to the same or better pay. Really? You might be surprised to know I went along with this demeaning suggestion. I did what he asked. 6 months later, on the eve before I turned in my spreadsheet evidence showing the drop in my pay, I gave him a heads up. What ensued was a painful, enduring battle. It was also Machiavellian devious. He chose to simply not assist me in my duties, rather be subtly impeded my efforts through our entire work process. Eventually, he took a misstep. He made a threat. There was proof of the threat, and he was extracted from all future pay negotiations. Sometimes I sit in awe of that time, reflecting on what I went through, even though it remains hard for me to revisit such a stress-filled time. People who have experienced this kind of treachery know how demeaning it can be. I could cite more examples of this discrimination. The situation did not improve for me. Over time, I found myself relegated to the bottom of agendas, overlooked blatantly, talked about behind my back, and aggressively bullied. My only choice in dealing with this was to stand up to it and decide if I could live with the aftermath. I'm sure we've all been at these intersections. Of course, my inner self wanted peace. I had not asked for this to happen to me. I wanted my work to stand for itself, for my work to be my voice. I wanted my results to shine as a beacon and marquee, as they always had. Sadly, during this chapter in my career story, I could not be that person. And this is where the lesson comes into focus. I found myself in uncharted waters in my career and life. I had done incredible work. I had risen consistently through the ranks. I had earned the respect of the employees who worked for me and with me. In truth, the bond I created with many coworkers saw me through this terrible, difficult intersection. The outcome, if we speed ahead, was my resignation and exiting a job I loved in an act of self-preservation. This was no firm, certain walk to the door. I truly felt unsure every step of the way. Yet, even in uncertainty, I had a vision, an invisible strength I could draw upon to guide me. Today, I have turned past heartache into lessons recorded in my curriculum. For example, pay negotiation, a course taught from a female leader's perspective, is chock full of strategy and defense against diminishment and the kind of treatment I experienced at work. Being in a horrible work situation is a difficult intersection. When do we decide our happiness and integrity means more than our work environment? We may decide to leave money, honor, power, prestige, and even friendships and community, all because of one bad person, one person who does not act with integrity, who makes life miserable, who is intimidated. What motivates a person to cause this angst? To break the spirit of a person like me, one cannot just poke me in the shoulder. It has happened plenty of times, and without flinching, I have prevailed. I have had my spirit broken slowly and methodically. It felt like a tide inexorably rolling in each day, tearing jagged edges in my psyche, but subtle, repetitive blows. And slowly but surely, I have been worn down to the point where every day I felt pure exhaustion. Misery became my normal existence. I felt hurt by those who were not coming to save me. My colleagues could see what was happening, and they chose to stand silently on the sides. I could not understand how dedicated service was not enough. There were moments I felt betrayed. In the end, there would be a few good people left standing by my side. Incredibly strong people who, despite my imposed unpopularity, despite the imminent threat of retribution, kept me from being alone at the lowest moments of this horrendous time. There are cliches written about intersections such as these in life. And even at my lowest, I knew I was not alone in my strife. And yet, even in that knowledge, there were times I was broken. I would rise each day and follow the same routine. So I want to just go ahead to the very end, because I think that that's like the most important piece that I want to end with, and let you know that as I sit here right now reading this chapter to you and the story goes on, that there's a positive, really incredible light in what Women with Vision was born with. And that is that adversity will strengthen you, hurt will shape you, breaks will let the light in. I catch myself staring at my life, wondering how I got here. This was a vision I had for the future and never intended for now. There are hundreds of people who I have served as their faithful leader over my entire career, who I left behind each time I moved on to the next chapter in my life, and who continue to follow me. My greatest lesson is you can change the title and the money, but you don't lose the power. These people seek me out today when they need mentorship, even though I left the helm of my job. I have forgiveness in my heart for people and things so I can embrace peace in life. I've learned holding on to past wrongdoing depletes you and changes you if you let it. But my lessons are still coming. And now I believe I am exactly where I'm supposed to be today. And this gives me great joy and comfort. I vow for the remainder of my life, I will continue to share these lessons for all who want to hear them. We never really lose. We always learn. So I know that sounds kind of dark. Thank you. And it's important for me to get that out because it actually ties two ends together in my life. And I hope that you understand the reason that I would share that is truly that for 30 years, I never talked about some of these deficits. And so while we're going to focus this year on business lessons, I want you to know what's driving the bus behind the scenes is that there's no scenarios that you might bring forward to us to talk about this year. There's no examples that you may need to discuss that you will not find a confident teaching and confidential place for you to have these discussions. You might find it ironic. I never made my gender any part of my career. I never talked about the numbers. I didn't even really know what the numbers looked like till at the end I reflected on how few women there were throughout the 30 years that I was going through the mortgage industry. So, all right. So one of the lessons that we have in the curriculum dashboard is distinguished speaking deficits. And so what I want you to understand is there is, and we know, a subconscious bias to women's voices. So what I'm hoping to give you guys today is kind of the confidence in the way that you speak. And it comes down to these things. I gave you an example in the boardroom in the book reading that I just did. We also understand the term, the mansplaining. So it comes down to our voice inflection, voice oration, and defending your voice. So a lot of times we're taught to not speak up and defend. And I know that that's a scary intersection to be at when you do decide to do it. But I am going to tell you that if we do nothing else this year, we hope to give you the power to know that we must each individually fight our own battles when they come to us. I always say this, I don't look for fights. I am not a person that likes conflict at all. However, if conflict comes to me, we must stand and we must face that conflict. So that is how we're going to win this gender time frame. I know not now, but in 30, 40, and 50 years from now, we will look back over that time, this time, and we will realize that we were part of history. Because make no mistake, whether you can see it or not, because we're in the trenches of the workforce, the American workforce, the tide that women have waited for the last 50 years just happened in the last 5. The moment that we've all been wanting to have, where we were protected by policy and law, where it was more fearful to be doing things against us than it was allowed, has come now. And now I still want to say that every day coaching women in the last few years, I see stories of discrimination. There are women coaching with Women with Vision right now that are dealing with it in the workplace right now, this month. They're either being overlooked for promotions. They are experiencing subtle discriminations. It is happening. And so while I don't want to plant a seed necessarily on this topic, what I want you to know is we are aware that we're evolving and that it's my belief as a coach that the way we're going to overcome this is to understand it and dissect it and look at it. So let's just take a look, the differences and nuances between the male and female speaking so we can understand it a little better. When a male speaks, it renders authority, right? It's hardly ever challenged. It's without emotion and it's perceived as stronger. When we speak often, it's softer, it's often challenged. We are emotional when we speak, and there is a subtle perceived weakness. Now, I want to challenge you all to know that sometimes I think it's happening to us without it being known. I don't think the person that's creating the subtle discrimination is aware that they're doing it. It's kind of like a language that we've all been speaking for so long that we don't even recognize until it's happening, and the person doing it doesn't even recognize that they're doing it. So here's your plan I want to give you for your voice. Number one, let's prepare to be heard this year. That is the most important thing. We're going to be loud and we're going to be proud and we're going to use our voices to make a difference in our business places. So it all starts with not being afraid to volunteer, to speak up, to be part of our boards, be part of the leadership. We want you to use uber professional settings for big projects. So what we want you to know is that when we do our board of directors, we are, of course, limited and we're doing them with Zoom. But of course, we're taking those meetings seriously. We have agendas, right? We stick to a timeline. Like, this meeting won't go over, I promise you. We're going to respect time. But what are the professional things that we need to do to get that look of delivering a professional message that we are in control of? So presentations are important. We're putting work into the very thing that you're getting today. Laura and I behind the scenes are meeting and making sure that the message is unified and we understand and support what each other is saying, of course. And then we're running that by the board of directors. And of course, we want the lessons to be meaningful and rich and emotional. And again, you know, the tagline for 2020 is emotional awakening through education. That's been our tagline for 2 years. Isn't it so appropriate? It's about making you go to a really emotional place and then bringing you back to the lesson. That is a technique in teaching that is extremely effective. It is more effective, in fact, and used by the greats. If you study the great teachers, Stephen Covey will tell you that emotional writings is what makes people learn the lessons greater. So make sure that when you're preparing your meetings, you're sending an agenda ahead of time. We make sure that every person on our board is asked before the meeting, do you have an agenda item you would like to add? All of our meetings have reminders the day before. So we're helping people remember what's coming and preparing mentally for the next day and being visionaries. Speak with more than one person in the room and make sure that crucial managers are copied. Critical conversations and protecting. This is when you must defend. Obviously, our natural selves does not like conflict. And so this is an area that you might be surprised I'm much more polished than it may look from the outside. I think we've all seen me have to defend a thing or two on social media or even in a meeting or whatnot. And so what I will tell you is that I have a coach that has taught me incredibly that you stand and you face conflict and that we cannot grow around and we cannot go around conflict. We can't go under it and we can't avoid it. So many times women will come to me in their business meetings and they will say they have a difficulty with a person in their staff. What should they do? How do they handle it? Or they're dealing with some difficulty with a manager. And so what I want you to understand is that the only way you'll have respect is to handle it exactly like the men. And that's directly. You can't talk to other people about the problem you have with the person that you have it. You have to man up, I guess, and directly face the person and have a professional conversation. You need to be willing to be uncomfortable and face that conflict. Through the facing of that conflict and the defending of your position in an honest manner, driving from a place with good intentions and a positive outcome in mind, you will resolve issues and move past them. We don't want to stay stuck. And one of the things women often do is they will revisit an emotional trauma. And so I'm going to make a joke that we can make only in the girls' room, but how many times has our partners, boyfriends, husbands done something? And now if you've been with them long enough, you could iterate a long list of things that in the past we might be bringing up. So as business leaders, we need to learn to face our conflicts at work, address it directly, and move forward and leave that issue behind. We need to learn to handle things on an escalated level. We need to understand what the real problem is. How many times do you have a problem presented to you? And think of it kind of like you're the doctor and a patient is sitting on your table and you know that they have a swollen ankle, but they're pointing to their knee and saying that's the problem. As leaders, we need to really address when we know the problem is different than what's being presented. That's also something that is really important as strong leadership. So please be strong and move forward. All right. Just going to remind you, hope you loved that lesson. Direct meetings, professional meetings, directly facing conflict. And then, of course, what I shared, which is that you can recover from things that are hard and go on to do great things like we're doing here at 2020 Vision. You can write your own chapters and your own future. So we want to remind you that, of course, we love any of your referrals. If any of you are not currently coaching, of course, we welcome you to join the curriculum. You can email us at info@visionyoursuccess.net anytime, and we'll happily go over everything. And of course, remind you that we have the incentive trip for Paris. So last but not least, Women with Vision magazine will continue this year. Laura actually ironically kicked off the cover of that magazine. And that magazine, I want to tell you, is doing incredible things in our women's industry. I'm really proud to tell you that we are about to have our youngest Women with Vision member on the cover of the magazine coming out. Her name is Olivia Lamper, and she is overcoming anorexia. She does not have a maternal figure in her life, and we are sponsoring her quest for Miss Teen USA in the state of New Hampshire. And so she is telling her story of overcoming anorexia, and she's about to compete in April. And I'm going to tell you right now, the cover is stunning. And it is titled A Worthy Quest. And it's going to be talking about youthful leadership and setting the pace for women. So I hope it's something we can all really be proud of. And of course, if there's anything that, whoops, I'm going backwards. If there's anything that you, if you ever want to tell your story, again, reach out to us the same way. And then finally, we have our Vision Summit. We know it needs to be a safe event, so we've spared no expense in that regard. We've got the grand ballroom, which is the only room, the biggest room that we can have our event in to offer social distancing and seating and proper distancing. All events will have masks supplied. Women with Vision masks, so anybody taking selfies will be logoed out, and the same will happen the next day. On the evening of June 8th, we will be having our 2020 Women's Celebration of Awards. There are 72 women that won the Women with Vision Award. If you want to check out who those winners were, you can go to www.mag.com to the November issue, and they are all highlighted in the magazine. And they will all receive trophies on stage if they come. We'll also be pinning our directors and giving medallions to our 1-year tenured members. And so it's an evening to celebrate women's leadership in the mortgage industry. And it's going to be attended by all event goers that are coming for the Vision Summit the next day. And it's going to be pretty fabulous. And Laura will be on stage giving the keynote. So I hope that all of you will consider coming. That is our meeting for today, and we open it up to any Q&A, anything at all that you might have that you want to talk about. I hope you found today helpful for you. Look at all those faces. See, as soon as my screen cleared, I was like, oh, you're here and you're here, and it's great. Thoughts to share? Anything that you want to share at all? I'll catch up on the chat. I'm behind on the chat.
I love the lesson, Christine. The lesson was absolutely just amazing. And your tips in regards to using your voice and some of those helpful things, very good. And I will tell you, that's one of the things I'm excited with this board of directors. I mean, I know we are going to have so much fun just getting into this cadence of how we're going to bring this content and how we're going to share it with all these women. And it is just, we're going to raise the bar. I mean, I'm just sorry. I honestly, I almost in a way feel bad about how many women leaders we're going to have 10, 15 years from now, because we're going to take so many male spots. That's honestly, honestly the way I'm feeling.
That was like a really powerful statement, right?
It's going to be a shame.
Wait, Felicia's got signs. Felicia, are you like, I'm going to adopt these ideas. I'm going to get like a 1 through 10 because then you can like peanut gallery the comments you like or don't like. That's awesome. Thanks, Laura. What else? Anyone want to share anything that they haven't spoke up and said? Any comments? I don't want to leave anyone hanging here.
I want to thank Laura for sharing. That was just brilliance. I'm almost going to cry here that when you were asked, and kudos for being asked by the MBA to present, talk, and that you went right to Christine and you guys networked together. I mean, that are things, do men even think about doing that? That is what puts us on top.
Well, here's the funniest part about that story. Well, actually, there's 2 pieces. One, first, I reached out to another woman in the industry, besides Christine, because she worked with me. And she said, oh, Laura, you have to respectfully decline. And then I was like, oh, hell no. That certainly can't be the way we're handling this. And then I called Christine. But the interesting part, it was a man we went to. We absolutely used, and that doesn't matter. The gender part doesn't matter. We went to the expert. Yeah. And that expert was wonderful. What a helpful individual that was more than happy. That collaboration was fantastic. Yeah. And it just goes to show that's the point that I want all of you to realize. When we're in a group like this, what Christine has built for all of us, you guys have no fear. There is nothing that you could go through that one of us here hasn't experienced.
Yeah.
Whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's leadership, mindset, whatever, someone has experienced it. You're not alone, and you're not the only.
That's right.
Anymore.
I didn't think I would ever talk about things that happened to me. And this is the funny part of my story. I went 28 years pretty much, feeling like a lot of men were responsible for promoting me. So I want you to know, I'm not running around. I'm not running around, and this is not the man hater association over here. What I will tell you is it's so funny because I brag pretty much for 28 years to that point. Oh, I've never experienced anything like that. And then I had the thing happen. And so, I always feel like things happen for a reason. They shape you. I read just almost the dark spot of that story because the other half of that story is very bright and talks about what I came out of and how I came out of it stronger. I would just say that sharing that the hardest part, I think, for all of us is just realizing the time we're in right now. Like, it's really important we recognize that the opportunity is now here, and how hard we all push this ball forward right now. Like, we've been put into the game now. Now we need to make some plays. And so, we've been called off the bench. So what are we going to do? And that's where I think the next 10 years is going to be really important. I hope I see testimonials from promotions and jobs and, all these things that we intend to do. I will tell you, Laura K. Sheely is on here, and I just thought I would highlight, there she is. Laura is a master student of 2020. She's been here a couple of years. There's many students on here, by the way, like half of them are people coaching. But Laura came saying, one day I want to be an author, I think. And she poo-pooed the idea. She spit it out of her mouth. And then she said, but it's a lofty idea. And I said, well, let's put that into action. How about we business plan that? Candy's holding up. Yesterday, Laura was number 10 on Amazon new releases with her 52 mindset book. And that's, this morning I watched her put a video out celebrating. And of course, that's more emotional for me than anything, by the way, like that I could possibly do, like watching somebody else else's dreams. It's like everything we tune into for movies, you know, but the time seemed to pass. I was, you know, I watched her writing. And in fact, she did a writing retreat and she chose to come here to New Hampshire to get away from everybody to write and finish writing the book. And it was close enough for us to spend time together and break bread together and talk about the book and what she was going to do. So listen, whatever it is that you want to do, guys, you know, this year, whatever these personal goals are, this is the year, you know, like, let's take some action. Let's put it into motion. Let's leave the place different than it was given to us. I think this is our combined legacy work. I think the power of us unified can make differences beyond the Olivia Lampers. You know, every Saturday I've been coaching a woman that is 20 years old that just got out of the hospital about 30 days ago from 90 days of clinical depression. And I'm volunteering my time with her because she lost her mother. Her mother died many years ago. And I had somebody reach out to me and say, she needs somebody to talk to. That's a woman. And I said, I'm your girl. Like, I'm your girl. Like, let's do it. And so on Saturday mornings, and so I sent her my books. And then we just talk. And I'm like, what do you want to talk about? And I'm trying not to be, you know, the 51-year-old mother type and more like a girlfriend. But she's really appreciative of it. And I can't tell you, like, of all the hours I spend doing mentoring, how heartwarming it is for me to spend this hour with her during the week and how meaningful I know the work is. So anyway, stay tuned. Thank you for coming. We will see you next month. And I promise you, we will have more and more wonderful education. Join what you can and come to what you want and let us know how we can help you. And really, that's it for this month. So let's rock March. Thanks again. And thank you to the board of directors and Laura. Bye now.
Fabulous.